Okay. So for those of you that are new to who in the world is this girl on Blab talking, I am Alice Fuller. Some know me as principal consultant at Share Social. Some of you know me on my entertainment side as Hollywood LV Work, which is short for Hollywood Living Work, which is basically an old entertainment blog I used to have. But the tweets are still current. Okay. So I'm going to try to satisfy both my audiences today because what we're talking about kind of spans both. We're talking about marketing, we're talking about social media, but we're also going to kind of delve into entertainment just a little bit on the hip hop side. Now, what some of you may not know is let me do a real fresh, just to keep it introduction to Mr. Brogan here. Okay. For those of you who do not know who this man is, let me school you a minute. Okay, Mr. Brogan, Chris Brogan, is the CEO of Owner Media Group. Okay, that is impressive enough. Go to his website, join the newsletter. I promise you, every week you'll get great information in your little email. It's not the kind of email you say, oh, I'm not going to open that. Trust me, you want to open the man's emails. That's one. Two, he has written several books. I call them Bibles in reference to social media. I know some of you might be a little, well, she just said the word Bible. Don't get it twisted. It's just a book of rules and guides to follow that we use in marketing and social media. And one of my favorites, which is how I got introduced to Chris, was Trust Agents. Great book about how to create audience, how to create trust, how to create that. Everybody's talking about branding, but a lot of us don't really know what branding really is. We just use the term because we hear it so much. And so what he's going to do today is he's also a New York Times best-selling author, thanks to Trust Agents, if I'm not mistaken. I think that was the first one. So I did my research. That was the first one that put you on that list. So you are, not to mention, a New York Times best-selling author. You are a sought-after speaker. And I do know that, and I do mean sought after. And so I became aware of you years and years ago. And I don't stalk you online. That's not what I do. I do follow you online, and we've had some conversations. And we first met after all these years of me following you, finally at the Internet Summit in Raleigh a couple of months ago. So that's the breakdown. So I'm gonna stop talking, and Chris, I want you to tell the people about yourself.
Well, I hope you don't stop talking. I'm just a lonely peasant. I started by running some consultancy type companies. I started way long ago in the phone company, but when I got into this weird world, it was really from a kind of a back alley. I was just some kid who'd grown up in Maine and was living in Massachusetts, and I just never liked the idea of having to talk to the kids beside me about the stuff they wanted to talk about. In Maine, the question was, would the Red Sox ever win a World Series? And back then the answer was no. Camaro versus Mustang, Camaro. Led Zeppelin versus Van Halen. And then that was about it, right? And then the weather. And so I wanted to talk about things like Star Wars, and I wanted to talk about superheroes. And, do you think Batman really could beat Superman? And that's really how I found all these tools. It wasn't for any massive business potential. I wasn't some kind of wizard sitting around thinking I could make $1 billion. But then I did think there might be some magic in that old silk hat, and that I could help people figure out business if maybe we connected around the things we really cared about, which is, I think, sort of how you and I have our affiliation, is that, that amongst other things, I am somewhat uncharacteristically into 90s hip hop.
Yes.
Not all hip hop, just, I seem to have stuck myself in the, late 80s, early 90s.
That's good though.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I don't want to pop bottles in the club. I want to get the job done.
Hey.
But to me, the thing is that's what I love about this space is you could be into what you're into, and we're going to connect with and find good folk. We're going to find the people that we want to talk to and talk to them about the stuff we want to do. And so I guess that's what I've been trying to tell businesses for a lot of years, that and treat my mom better. That's been how I've made all the money that I've made in business, is just trying to figure out those two little details.
Okay. Well, today the topic is what marketers can learn from old school hip hop. Now, let me clarify what I mean by old school, because if you were born in the late 90s, old school for you might be Jay-Z. So I'm sorry, I don't mean to laugh. I'm laughing with you, not at you.
I'm with you.
But for those of us who are a little older, I got a little bit of age on us. We're not old. Don't get it. We're not old by any means. We're just older. So old school for us means we're talking about Run DMC. We're talking about Grandmaster Flash. We're talking about LL Cool J before he became the actor.
Yeah.
LL Cool J. And to keep it a little bit more current, I'll bring you into the late 90s and 2000s. We're talking about Kid and Play. We're talking that's old school. We're talking about EPMD. We're talking about Public Enemy. Okay, Brand Nubian, Tribe Called Quest. That's old school hip hop. Okay, so we're going to use that as kind of like the foundation for today's conversation as a throwback to them, but we're going to keep it current and relevant to what marketers can learn from those who came before them, but with the foundation of music. So my first question, let me get my first question. Okay. You already kind of explained what drew you to hip hop. Because, when I already knew when people said hip hop and then they looked at the picture and like, she gonna talk to him? Yeah. Indeed I am. So what first drew you to hip hop?
I had started in heavy metal. I was into heavy metal music, and it was so funny. I'd gone from Van Halen to Megadeth and Anthrax and Metallica and all that sort of stuff, and I was just really into it. And then Anthrax did a crossover. I knew hip hop. I knew Sugar Hill Gang. It just didn't speak to me at that point. I wasn't hip hop. It wasn't interesting until Public Enemy, Bring the Noise, and I went, whoa. Wow. Who's this Chuck D? Like, this guy's my man. And like, I went from there in all directions. And, I appreciated who the Beasties were. I did not like the first Beasties album. I knew what they were getting at. I thought it was cool that they put Slayer with hip hop, so again, metal and hip hop, just sort of, there was a family there. So then when I got into it more, I just felt like the music was speaking to me a bit more than metal, songs about dragon slaying and things like that. Which, whatever, if that's your thing, that's your thing. I still like a good Iron Maiden and Judas Priest, but I think that, Kool Moe Dee and Big Daddy Kane and stuff, I go to work, I get the job done. Diamonds. Yeah. I'm not a businessman. I'm a businessman. I was just like, ooh, I get it. These people are about hard work and the struggle. And, they're not quite being treated like, they matter. And, when Run DMC was like, pull all your laces out, your Adidas and all that, I was like, that was the first time that brands were mentioned in songs without somebody paying money for them to get in the song.
Exactly.
And now look, the brands are chasing those guys. Please like our vehicle. So I think it's beautiful.
Please sit in our SUV in your music video. Okay, so we've established you have a strong connection to hip hop. So old school hip hop it epitomizes innovation, hands down. You got scratching, you got beatboxing, you got all of that creative breakdancing. That's innovation at its best. But do you think today's marketers are doing anything really innovative, or just kind of following the crowd? Now, I have my own opinion, of course, but what do you think? Is there some still innovation? And if there is innovation, what do you think is the catalyst for it?
For every Beasties, there's a third base.
Oh, that's a tweet.
That's tweet sized, huh? So
yeah.
I would say that, there were people who live it and look for the innovative angle and the edge. I mean, look at Diggable Planets, cool like that. Look at Digital Underground. There were lots of bands that were out there just like, I am going to push a curve here. And some of them fell off that curve. It didn't work. For every Ja Rule and, DMX that were kind of thugging it up, that isn't who sold all the records. You know what I mean? We can like all those guys, but they're not the ones who sold all the records. So as a marketer, you start paying attention to that too, right? So what happens is there's crazy, and some crazy falls off the curve. Some crazy becomes the most important thing. There's ridiculous laser focus like Jay-Z, who says, I'm going to put a micro percentage purchase on the Brooklyn Nets because ultimately I really want the concession business, and I'm going to sell my vodka and stuff in there. I'm going to make hundreds of millions of dollars while you're making fun of me for buying a fraction of a sports team, right? He was miles ahead. Dr. Dre, you know, what are you making fun of me because I've been in the lab with a pen and a pad trying to get this damn label off? Billionaire. Yeah. Who cares when the next Chronic album is out?
We don't care.
Billionaire, right? So to me, there's a bunch of marketers sitting around going, I wonder when Dre's next album's coming out.
Yep.
And then there's other people going, what's the next angle? And you know, I don't think you don't feel bad if you're not a next angle person. I'm not. You know what I am? I'm a slow, methodical. I'm going to push it forward and I'm going to get there. You know, I'm going to push it along, like my tribe friends would do. So that's my deal.
You just dropping rhymes, okay? Do you have a hip hop name or a rap name that we know that we're not knowledgeable?
No, I really don't.
Let me find out. That somewhere you in a club in the back of a club, like 16 bars. What?
Yeah, you know what my rapper name should be? Mom Spaghetti.
Oh, come on, dude. You got to come better than that. I'm sorry.
Come on. That's my favorite part of 8 Mile.
That's weak. Oh, that's so weak. But okay, I digress. Okay.
See, Patrick Allman in the chat said the same thing. He was saying, Mom Spaghetti.
It's weak.
We were right there. Oh,
gosh. Mom Spaghetti. Okay. All right. So in your presentation to the Internet Summit, for those of you that are not familiar with the Internet Summit, it's kind of like most of your social media marketing, digital marketing conferences. So in your keynote, you talked about the impact equation. And basically, you broke down the word create, CREATE. Contrast, reach, exposure, articulation, trust, and echo. Okay, so back in the day, we had a lot of rappers, and then you could tell, but every rapper kind of like had their own style. You know, LL didn't sound like Big Daddy Kane. Everybody kind of had their own little thing. But do you think that today's marketers kind of fall into looking and sounding alike, like everybody else?
Yeah, you know, I think that, so with those things, reach plus exposure, you know, how far can we go and how many times can we beat the message over someone's head? Reach plus exposure is the majority of marketers. Mm-hmm. The first part I said about kind of being weird and angular, that's contrast, right? Can I stick out? You know, Missy Elliott, there is no one like Misdemeanor. You know what I'm saying? Especially when she came on the scene in the 90s. When she came on the scene in the 90s with like The Rain, Super Duper Fly. I'm
going to take you back even before that. Missy Elliott, she hit you with the before she was even that. But when she was in a girl group that failed, even when she was kind of like, you know, back in the 90s, it was like R&B, then hip hop, and then they bring the hip hop artists in the middle. So peace out to Diddy, because Diddy kind of introduced us to Missy back in the day. But you go ahead. I digress.
No, you're right about that. So I would say that Missy brought contrast. Reach and exposure is where everyone else tries to play. You know what I mean? That's the One Directions and Biebers and all that. That's reach and exposure. Like I can hit everyone. It's going to be fine. And I'm not, you know, no disrespect. They are music. I mean, Bieber's a musician. I won't say much about One Direction. You don't have to like him, but he is a musician. Trust and echo, though. Trust and echo is where hip hop just connected, right? I mean, you know, you got Cool J, Mama Said Knock You Out. You got, you know, Mix-a-Lot with Baby Got Back. That's one side. It's people talking, you know, just party music, right? I mean, there's a lot of party music that came out in the 90s.
Ooh, yeah.
You know, on the other side, you got, you know, Hard Knock Life, you know, and it was a good day. You got all these things where, you know, I'm really talking to you and I'm making sure you echo, you know, making sure you really connect up. So, you know, I don't begrudge anyone for making party music, but I can tell you that a lot of what really, you know, what really connected back then was the echo stuff. I would say that the sort of, trust stuff. And then the party stuff is, you know, what you get played at weddings still, you know, part is this kind of the brings you back music, but you know, if we were kind of going through a moment, we'd probably want to listen to the stuff that really made us feel trust, that the people really got what was going on.
Okay, so, but as a marketer, especially if you're a new marketer, how do you create the contrast you need to stand out when what's hot is basically what everybody tries to follow.
So and it's funny because to me, you can hear almost always in hip hop, especially, you can hear when someone catches on that this is going to work and everyone else rips it.
Yep.
It's just forever people copying other people's style. That's, it's a guarantee, almost to the point like you shouldn't even bother with diss tracks. You should just be like, yeah, I know, he stole it. But I think, with marketing, what we need to do is really stay true to your lane, right? So there's a lot of musicians and performers who tried really hard to kind of catch into an angle or be part of something else. And I think that's the biggest lesson is, if you really want to stand out and be your own person and kind of have that impact equation, leveled the way you need it to be, you've got to really be who you really are. You know what I mean? Like the fact, Alice, that I like 90s hip hop, there's no benefit to me liking 90s hip hop. It's not like that's some, demographic that's useful. Believe me, your friends don't look at me and go, Chris Brogan, man, I like that guy.
They will now.
maybe. But, the fact that I do love it and the fact that I drop it, randomly into the speeches and stuff that I do is quite often a connecting point for someone else, or someone else will say, oh my gosh, I had no idea. I talked to a really great lady at Blog World a couple of years ago of African descent, not African-American. Mm-hmm. And her favorite music is country music.
Yep.
She told me that one of the funniest stories about when she was talking to her family back home and she forgot to turn down the music. And her mom was like, is that Kenny Chesney? And I cried laughing because, it's just funny how the music we're supposed to listen to versus what we find that we like. I think that's true of marketing. We've got to really tell the story that's in front of us, not the story we wish were true.
Oh, the story that's in front of us, not the story we wish was true. Okay, if I could, I would tweet that, but I don't have but later. Okay, that's good. Now, in a 2011 NPR interview, and doing my research, Russell said that it was authenticity. So Def Jam. And that's what made rap a staple pretty much throughout culture, American culture, and then international culture. But once again, we got a lot of people faking the funk. So how does that relate when you got so many people trying to appear trying to look like they're more successful than they really are, when you have that many marketers on the scene trying to figure out how they're going to stand out, keeping it real? Let's address that a minute.
Alice, it comes down to two really simple but not easy words: fear and love.
Oh, okay.
Fear and love. We are afraid that people are going to think we're frauds. We're going to be afraid that people are going to think we're not worth it. We're afraid that people are going to say, well, if you don't act successful, why would anyone trust their business with you? Mm-hmm. We have so much fear. And the best way to combat fear is love. And, everyone says the opposite of fear is bravery. That's not true. Fear has to be in your life. But what gets you through fear is love. That's what gets a soldier to run towards danger. Mm-hmm. That's what gets, first responders to jump into the middle of something bad, knowing that they might not come out of that something, because love conquers fear, right? So it's the same inside of us. You know what I mean? I just had a guy just 2 days ago say to me, I sent out a sales letter for something I'm promoting, and he was like, I want to see your bank statements before I decide I want to work with you. He goes, I only work with certified millionaires.
Wow.
And I was like, wow, that's fascinating. I said, well, first off, I wouldn't send you a bank statement, if your name was IRS. But second, I don't have $1 million. I'm not a millionaire. I've made plenty. I've made well over a handful of million over the last bunch of years, but I'm not a millionaire. Come to my house. You won't go, wow. You'll go, oh, this is where you live, But what I said to him is that I don't know that, if you think millionaires are who has the solution to your life, I think you're probably going to have a rough life.
Yeah.
Because I'll tell you that the richest people I've ever met, I've met billionaires. They still have challenges. Richard Branson, when I talked to him, he was very, very self-conscious about a few things. Vinod Khosla, who founded Sun Microsystems, he was a huge investor. He was nervous about stuff, just like any other human. So what I think, to keep it real, you just focus on the thing you're going to focus on. And, the truth is what people most want is how you're going to help them. We spend so many words and so much language on how we're worth it. Like, honestly, trust me, you're going to be okay here. I want to hear, this is what we're going to do. This is how we're going to get through it. This is what comes next. These are the people that matter. I mean, the people that matter to me in my life, are passionate people who are into what they're into. And, sometimes it serves them and sometimes it doesn't. Those are the people that matter. And I think, Alice, that just, I have 2 words for if you're not keeping it real: Milli Vanilli.
And one of them committed suicide. I must admit. but it's kind of interesting because when you're coming into, someone asked me yesterday on LinkedIn about how do you break in to digital marketing, and it's there is a big concern for people for those that want the respectability. You're trying to build up your client base and at least get a client so you can have at least one little testimonial on your website to say somebody trusted you with their business. And so there's that much pressure to try to appear to be, successful, to try to appear that you're making, at least this kind of money. But you still have to figure out I'm sure that there still has to be some sort of balance, because at the end of the day, you shouldn't be putting yourself out there to deliver something that you can't deliver. That's one. 2, and like you said, I think more and more people are getting away from, how many likes does she have? How many followers does she have? It's just like when you realize they can be bought from a little town in Russia or or India, or some companies will sell you the package deal, and with 500 likes you get a large fry. So when it comes down to that, what would you have any advice for? Because I know some people are maybe new to marketing or just getting in, or even if you're a veteran, there still has to be a balance of putting yourself out there as the expert. And when you have that kind of credibility, it's one thing. But if you're still trying to build that credibility, you got to find that sweet spot.
Here's how I opened my business. I'll back it up just a tiny bit. I was blogging before anyone paid any attention. No one cared. It took me 8 years to get my first 100 readers. Wow. And everyone's like, man, I've been blogging for 2 months. I only got 500 subscribers. And I'm always like, dude, you got more than me. When I started, it took me 8 years. Of course, I was a little ahead of the curve. I started in 98. People didn't know they should look at blogs. So that's number 1. Number 2, what happened along the way was I just kept giving people ideas that they could use to make some money. I was a drug dealer. I'm your pusher. Boom, down, down, down. I was pushing. So I was giving people the free taste, right? And then they'd come back, and then they'd come back. I could get another taste, strawberry. So I was dope, man. I got them all day, Alice. But so in the process, what I did was, while everyone was out worrying about getting likes and stuff, by the way, I checked and my bank does not accept clout. They don't care. I tried to pay my mortgage with some thumbs up the other day, and I got a thumb up and a middle finger. Yep. It doesn't work that way. So while other people were doing that, I was just saying I would work with people. And so I started working with people by putting out one website page, and all it said was this: Chris Brogan works with Fortune 100 companies. When I put that up on my site, I had no clients. I just said, this is who I want to work with. And guess what? A Fortune 100 company said, oh, he works with Fortune 100s. Okay, I'll bring them in. Next thing you know, I got Sony. I got Titleist Golf. I've got all these companies, to the point that my friend Maxine Clark, who runs Build-A-Bear Workshop, said, oh, I'm only a Fortune 500 company. Does that mean you won't work with me? And I said, oh, all right. Right. So while other people were worrying about likes and thumbs up and tweets and crap like that only is interesting to us, I was meeting princesses and Dr. Phil and the chairman of General Motors and Tony Robbins, right? Like, yep. You can collect paper or you can collect likes. I'm out there trying to make business happen. And the way I do that isn't to be impressive or grandiose. Do you know what I do? I help people. And then they go, man, Brogan's a nice guy and he made me more money. Guess who gets invited back? Not people with freaking likes.
Okay, people, you heard it. Okay, so stop sweating. Sweat the technique, but don't sweat the likes. Stop sweating followers, and please stop buying them. Just don't do it. Just don't. Leave it alone. Leave it alone. Leave it alone. Okay, so going back to reach and exposure? Is there such a thing as being a little too exposed, or you just out there way too much? Is that not really a thing?
Oh boy, it's tricky because it's also tricky to rock a rhyme. It's tricky because
Right on time. It's true. I got you. I got you. I got you.
It's tricky because if you are overexposed, you run the risk of sort of being puffy, And by the way, I don't, poor Puffy, hundreds of millions of dollars, why? But, him rapping on an album right now, wouldn't really do much for anybody. Right. But, he picked up a whole new game. So I don't know. I don't think there's a lot of problem with being overexposed. I think what the problem is that when people choose to be, when they try to bring their own exposure, when they try to be out there just like bringing the noise, and what they're really doing is only making noise, which is the subtitle to Impact Equation. Are you making things happen or just making noise? Mm-hmm. You run into trouble because there's no meat there, right? So you can spend all day fronting, but when they hand you the mic, if nothing comes out, we're back to mom's spaghetti. Like you're done. It's over now. So to me, that's where a lot of people are, wasting all their calories is, what if someone doesn't like me? That's the fear and love thing, man. Mm-hmm. Who cares? Make somebody more money. It's that Zig Ziglar quote about, if you help enough people get what they need, you'll get what you want.
Yeah. So all you really need is one mic. So that's Nas for y'all that don't.
I like that one.
Yeah. All you really need is one mic and generating an audience. I think one of the best things that old school hip hop, technically, culturally, they were going to attract an audience anyway. However, when it comes to reach, and when we saw that hip hop meets Aerosmith, I can't necessarily say that was the definitive moment when hip hop crossed over.
Right.
But I can say that it was probably one of those definitive moments when it did. So for those, especially if you're working on Facebook and whatever platform you're working on, reach is crucial. So at starting out, what would you say is probably one of the best techniques in generating reach? Is it collaboration, as with Run DMC and Aerosmith, or is it the tool, or is it just straight out, I go to work and hard work?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I like that question a lot, because I was sort of inclined to answer a little flippantly that it's just a lot of work, but that's not really true. There's a lot of people who work forever who never quite get the love that they deserve. My buddy Glenn Bolton is Professor Daddio from Stetsasonic.
Oh, okay.
Stetsasonic, you can stamp your old school cred right there. You'd be like, man, that was a band. Mm-hmm. Glenn's out there still pushing, right? Like, he is not, living the limo dream lifestyle that you would imagine from a rap legend. And to me, the reason is him and his one mic cipher, it was not as accessible to the mainstream. And when I say mainstream, I mean white people. And
I wanted you to say it, because if I say it,
I know. Just like I can't say that other word, Alice, right? But I could tell you that there's truth to that, right? It's an unfortunate truth. Let's just say that. Let's agree that hip hop was wonderful and perfect and needed no white people to be wonderful and perfect. Hip hop commercially, white people made the difference. Eminem showed up, Beastie Boys. Oh, we can like this music. Anthrax and Public Enemy was less accessible because it was a thrash band, and Chuck D, come on now. You go 2 more songs after that one and you're like, maybe I shouldn't be here. But Run DMC and Aerosmith, couldn't be 2 more approachable types of bands, for the mainstream to kind of glom onto. And so that's true. That would be one way to get a great deal of reach. But you got to feel it. Like, that's the problem, right? Jay-Z teamed with Linkin Park. Everyone said, this is so weird. Like, why would you do that? Why Linkin Park? Jay said, I like Mike Shinoda. That's all, period. Doesn't matter. I don't care if it's a huge success. And it worked really well. MTV put out that album, and they got a lot of money out of that album. It's actually one of my favorite albums of Jay-Z's with Linkin, because it just sort of did a fun rework of a lot of their songs. I think that there's that, but I think you got to feel it. You know what I mean? If Jay had teamed with, I don't know, first off, I think he could work with anybody. But if it was him and I don't know, Taylor Swift. I don't know that would work so well. It has to be genuine and legit.
Well, when you think about Taylor Swift and Kendrick Lamar, you would have never put those two together to think about it. But then, I mean, with this new kind of era that we're in now, you see these kind of crazy collaborations like Taylor Swift and Kendrick Lamar. He's in Compton, she's in Beverly Hills, and trust me, Compton, generally people who live in Compton, they don't roll to Beverly Hills that often because everything they need is there in Compton.
You got that right. Alex, I was at a trip with my old boss Jeff Pulver, and we went to both. We were in Beverly Hills in the morning. We were in Compton in the afternoon. There was a private party at a new place. Now, by the way, as a hip hop guy, I was like, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, Compton. As a white guy, I was like, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, Compton. I'm not gonna lie. I was sort of looking around like, probably not where I should be.
Just don't scream fire and don't scream that other word that'll get you punched in the face. You cool.
Good question. You know what? Nothing happened. It was all good. Everybody was nice. The scariest places I've ever been in my life are around white people anyway. Ooh. So I had a good old time. But I will tell you this about that is that with Kendrick in that Skrillex just teamed with Justin Bieber. Skrillex, like the god of dubstep to some people and hatred by others, made a huge hit because they brought both their bands together. You know, I mean, they brought both their noise to the same project. To me, that's where it comes. That's where a cool collaboration happens. John Lee Dumas and I, Entrepreneur on Fire, have been doing some stuff together lately. And man, every time we talk, it's like, and I'm just like, I'm on fire. That's what you got to look for. You know, is it hell yeah stuff like Derek Sivers says? And if it's not, then don't do it.
Don't do it. Okay. So one of the other tenets in the create is articulation. NWA, Public Enemy, Tupac, masters of articulation. But articulation is somewhat of an art too. And sometimes I think today's marketers, they don't articulate the message well. So, you know, some of us are still learning how to articulate. And especially is it important to learn how to articulate to different audiences.
All right. So with articulation, we're talking about we need clarity. We need to make sure that people really get the message. And I'll tell you, one of the reasons we don't articulate is we get nervous. We try to put in defense words. We try to put in correction words. I had talked to this shrink yesterday about something going on in my house, and he must have spent 25 minutes on like the caveats and the you should be warned, and you know, I have to be clear about this. And I was like, I'm going to fall asleep. Like, I'm trying here to like pay really close attention because this is important medical information. And I'm just like, because he just had to tell me all this legal crap so I don't sue him. Well, when we write or create, if it's not clear, it's not clear, right? And the best in hip hop and in marketing are there people who clean it right up. You know, I just, there's millions of choices for that, you know, and the thing with articulation is with hip hop, there's so much creativity to it. Like there's the idea, like in 99 Problems, every time he says, but a bitch ain't one, he never means a woman. He never once means calling a woman a bitch. And I love that because once it's the dog is the bitch and being a bitch ain't one and all that. He was very articulate in how he put that together. When Eminem raps, he loves to do stuff like rap on the second syllable, you know, which is some real clever stuff. But, you know, if you sit to try to do it, it's going to be some pain, right? Like it's not an easy path. So when we get it wrong in marketing is when we're trying to tell too big a story, or when we're trying to tell a story too vague to too many people, or when we're worried that people are going to need some defense or something like that. So to me, it's just, I think the biggest opportunity is to just cut it right down to what matters most. And if you can use the, you know, he with the fewest words or she are going to win.
So keep it simple.
Mm-hmm. Keep it simple and clean and clear.
Okay. Now we're getting down to branding, and we throw around the word branding so damn much at this point that I think that whatever the original definition has been watered down, because everybody you talk to kind of like has their own little version or their own little description of what branding is. But it really just comes down to trust. What do you think old school hip hop did in creating trust between the music and the audience that marketers can learn from?
You know, for one is that, you know, the bands that persevered and the performers that we actually care about are the ones that stayed their course even if it wasn't everybody's course. You know, I'm a lifelong Public Enemy fan. And, you know, I love the work of Chuck D. I think that, you know, when I look at, and, you know, Flavor Flav, when I look at like even 911's a Joke, which is sadly one of their more popular songs, even though it's probably my least favorite of their songs, he was talking about the fact that, you know, there's a racial disparity problem here. That song means more to me than a lot of songs or stories or newspaper articles about it, because he was really putting it down. So when I think of the brand Public Enemy, you know, they're going to push in the face of what they think is wrong. So that's, you know, when you're considering, should I invite these guys to play my wedding? The answer would be no. When you think of a band like De La Soul, there's definitely going to be, you know, it's going to be a good time, you know? So you have to sort of match branding. To me, the answer to branding is just like, you know, what do they do? What do they do for you? Right. You know, like when I buy a Coke, it's because the flavor is the flavor I want, you know, and whatever. And it's all they have to say. I'm Coke. They don't have to say anything else. None of those catchphrases like delivering happiness have nothing to do with anything. It's not branding to me. It's sort of, what's the promise of it? You know, people in here, Joseline and Mike and some of the people, Martin, who have shown up, they have a meaning to me and a value to me, no matter what they put on the bottom of their business card underneath their name, you know. And to me, what we're all trying to do is we're trying to figure out, how do we say that in a clear enough way? So at Owner, what we say now is, I put more wins on your board. Now, I don't think it's immediately obvious, but at least gives you a storyline, and you go, oh, what's that mean? And how am I going to get there? And that's what I'm trying to do. Because I think people think at least, I hope I can win. So I don't know. I hopefully that's useful, but you know, that's what I got for you.
Okay. So creating that echo, or you defined it as allowing people to see themselves in you, which is the E in the create, the C, the R, the E, A, T, E, because I'm going to go back to that in just a second. But despite race, despite class, old school hip hop, I don't care if it's Grandmaster Flash down to Wu-Tang and even Kendrick Lamar, that, you know, bring it very, very current. It always seems to resonate with people. I don't care, you know, rich, poor, black, white, Hispanic, Asian, matters not. What do you think are some examples of that marketers can look toward today? Now we got Coca-Cola, we got the major brands, but I'm thinking they've been around for a long time. We get that. But when you're looking at what's popping right now, and those brands that resonate across the board, could you give us like somebody that you look at and say, okay, yeah, that's hot right there. That's hot.
I'll tell you a brand that I like. I don't know if it's hot. I like a brand from Detroit called Shinola. They bought the rights to use the word Shinola, which was a long time ago, like 1920s era brand that, of course, went, you know, bankrupt a million years ago. And when you go to Shinola, what they're talking about is that we're building a tradition, one thoughtfully crafted product at a time. They started with watches. They sell things like wallets. They sell a couple other weird things like bags. They got a bicycle, a Shinola bicycle. All this stuff is built in Detroit, you know, sourced locally. You know, some of their materials are from foreign places right now, but they're kind of, you know, aiming towards moving stuff local. They're doing cool projects like partnering with Muhammad Ali and all that sort of stuff, matching with poets and things like that. That watch, you know, on average, a Shinola watch costs about $500. I've got one. Can't find it all of a sudden. I lost it somewhere in my house. But I can tell you this, that I like that more than the $4,000 watch that I used to have, that it was supposed to be fancy and cool. And never once, any time that I wore the fancy watch, did I ever want to talk about it. When I wear the Shinola watch, I start like to strangers, hey, what do you think of this? This is made in Detroit. Do you like Detroit? You know, and that's about it. So I think that, you know, with brands and with Echo and all that, we just got to find the 1,000 people that we care about and that we want to connect with the most. You know, we got to find the people who like our references, who think that what we have to say is similar or good or funny. You know, I was commenting about the fact that I met Don Lemon from CNN a long time ago. And the very first 4 words he said to me as I was getting ready to shake his hand was, I have to pee. And I was like, oh my gosh, I always tell people when I have to pee. Like, but people make fun of me because it's not really a grown-up thing to do. But I was like, I love you, Don Lemon. Like, I've been a fan for life, because the first thing he said to me is he had to pee. Because he was in between breaks on the show. You know what I mean? He really had to run and come. So get back.
Yeah, I get it, but some announcements you just don't need to make, bro. It's just
Well, no, I hear it. Listen, Alice, I'm not saying it like I think it's a great idea. I'm just telling you that that's one of those things that makes me me, I guess.
okay. I get it. I get it. So when we're talking about, I want to go back to something else too. When we start talking about staying in your lane, and what I'm seeing more often right now is brands, traditional brands, are kind of seem like everybody is chasing after these millennials. No disrespect to millennials at all, but but there comes a time when you're seeing brands using words like fleek. It's like, really? Everything is on fleek or bay. In some instances it works, but in many instances it falls so flat. So what's kind of like your take on that? I mean, there's got to be just either stick to what people love you for to begin with, and stop trying to be hip or cool like that, or or what's your take on these traditional businesses trying to appear? I mean, they were already relevant, but is it a bad thing? Is it a good thing, or is there an in between?
It kills me because every time I hear those kinds of things, it's like someone's grandmother talking. There's never a person who legitimately uses the phrase fleek, that looks at someone that doesn't usually use it and go, wow, they just said fleek. They're never like, wow, they're so in with me right now. That's like the opposite of echo. You know what I mean? It's the resounding dis-echo when someone does that kind of a thing. That's why, I love rap and all that. I never say the N-word. I never take off letters and stuff unless I'm quoting a lyric. I don't say "das was up." I don't ever, I don't speak in a diction that's different than my diction, because that's where that is lost, right? So I think that with brands and with businesses and with our social friends and following here, I think that again, you just got to be you. You got to do you. I mean, when you went to Cool Like That, man, I love that band. I love that band. And I just think they were so freaking weird. And that's why they didn't go too far. But I don't know. will.i.am, everyone seems to want to call him a genius, but I can say that they were a weird band too. And they got a lot further. They got a lot further because there wasn't so much meat to this. Speaking of meat, Martin's leaving for a curry, so I guess we'll have to catch him later. But I can tell you that with the whole opportunity to connect with people, the least useful way to do something with it is to try to speak a language that's not necessarily yours. The opposite of this is if and when you can talk to people in their language and they feel like you're genuinely speaking their language. When I quote a bunch of lyrics, my biggest worry is that someone on the other side is like, he's just doing that to try to catch some group of people that he's not part of. But when I'm doing it is I'm saying, no, this is my music too. You can't all have it. It's mine too. And that hopefully there's a bridge there. Okay. So we can use language as a bridge, or we can use language as camouflage. And I think one's dangerous.
Okay. I got a question on the floor. You want to take it?
I'm ready. Time? You go.
Okay.
You go.
It says Sunday. Is it Sunday Vidal? I work with 2 of my family businesses. Should I work on branding myself to obtain more clients for the biz, or keep my head down, focus on the business? There's so much noise.
If I had your name Sunday, I would focus on my name all day long.
Right.
I would be like, look, I have the best name in the world. My name's pretty boring and Irish compared to yours. Here's what I would say. My biggest regret as a business is that I named my website chrisbrogan.com because, I've had 3 times offer to sell it, and, I can't sell it because it's my damn name. And that didn't go well for famous Amos Cookies guy. Wally Amos can't even use his own name because he sold it, right? Mm-hmm. So talk about slavery, brand slavery. This man can't use his own name. Mm-hmm. So I think that working on, the business versus your name, I guess the disparate question there is, are you the business or are you just a piece of the business? And if you're just a piece of the business, then your name needs to still be out there. You need your sort of writer's credits. You need your sort of featuring will.i.ams. all over. That's why there's featurings. Featurings came about because a lot of artists were like, wait a minute, that song got really important because I helped it. Aloe, what's his name? Aloe Green, Aloe Black, Aloe some color. The guy who he did that. Yeah, I got nothing, but that most recent guy, Aloe color name, sang with one of those dance guys, and it was like one of the most famous songs going. And for a while, it didn't say his name on the credits or whatever.
Okay.
So I guess what I'm saying is Sunday, featuring Sunday Vidal would be a really good way to make that.
But that's hot. That's hot. I like that, featuring Sunday Vidal. Yeah, if I had the name, I got a boring name too. It's just Allison Fuller. I mean, that don't excite nobody. So it is what it is. So I want to touch on, there's another big hot topic right now that I'm seeing across LinkedIn and everywhere else, which is multiculturalism, because at this point, the demographics, the population is changing. And when it comes down to, I think one of the reasons why, in many instances, so many brands are now trying to appeal to certain cultures with the fleeks and the bay and the and all these other slang, is because they want to appear as if we're hip and we're knowledgeable of you. I had a great debate with an individual who worked at an agency, and we were debating over this. It was a burger company or burger franchise or whatever, and they did something around Martin Luther King's birthday. And it was just a simple tweet, Martin Luther King birthday, something nice. And she said, well, that's so not in their brand, though. Why would they even bother saying anything nice about, just get back to talking about burgers. Nobody cares anything about you talking about Martin Luther King. And I'm thinking, now, wait a minute now. Let's back up a minute, because evidently you have not seen Do the Right Thing. No. Evidently that is not in your video library, not even a little bit. So I said to her, well, think about it. If you're, depending on the location, quite possibly, and depending on the people that are coming into that business, and if they're talking about Martin Luther King, if you know that is a day that your customers observe and celebrate, why not do it? Evidently, she did not know anything about McDonald's with 365 days of Black history. McDonald's is a great go-to. So what's your take on how businesses now, because one, like I said, it seems like so many people are trying to appear young and hip, but companies are also trying to appeal to multicultural, the Latino culture, of course, Black culture, sometimes maybe even Asian and everything else. So is there you can't necessarily say that there's a one big answer for it, because there's not, but what's your take on it? Because it is important.
It really is. I mean, man, what a mixed story there, right? So there's I never been into a McDonald's where I didn't see a lot of different cultures. Mm-hmm. I eat at McDonald's sometimes. People are always like, "Ooh, McDonald's."
That fish fillet. Say what you
like McDonald's. That's a good fish fillet, right? They make some products that I like. So I'll tell you, I think if you're doing it with respect, what you don't want is, you don't want to temporarily rename a burger the Martin Luther King burger.
Oh, don't do that.
And there's a lot of times where people mess it up, like, your Hanukkah ham, right? Your Muslim pork roast or something like that,
Stop it right now, Chris.
They do that, though. There's a graphic. It's a Walmart mistake that Walmart made, and I don't have any problem with Walmart either. But then Walmart made a mistake where they had out Hanukkah hams. They didn't, someone I'm sure was trying, and they didn't get it. So it's all good, right? Like, do a little reading. It would be good. But I think, but I mean, I can see, like, if you do it with your heart, you're going to do it. Okay. If you do it because you're just trying to get the bucks, you're not. But, I can see, with Latino culture, if I were McDonald's, I'd be like, you'd be so dangerous, right? You could be like, sick of rice and beans. Well, then you're being racist. Right. Well, but it's not if your mom makes you rice and beans all day. I have a kid that I play video games with, and he's a kid, And he was like, my mom basically makes 5 meals, period. She makes rice and beans. She makes tortillas with cheese. She can't cook for beans. Like, so she makes like horrendously bad meals. He goes, McDonald's to me is like eating out at like Morton's to you.
Wow.
And so to me, I was like, wow, this could almost be an ad. So I don't know. I think that respectfully done, though, celebrating Dr. King's birthday, respect, make it happen. Being on fleek. Now, first off, I don't think any culture owns that word. I actually hate the word, but it's all good. It'll come and go. I think that I think that word is not forever. I'm pretty sure. Bay. I don't know. I think that there's places where you can feel that you're connected to that language, and I think there's places where it's really obvious that you're stretching. The other weird thing, I this is not what you asked, but this is a related thing. Cadillac, for instance. Cadillac is not a Black people brand culturally, but boy, is it, because Escalade, right?
Yeah, well, you could ask the same thing at Crisco. There are some things, I mean, honestly, we can be very brand loyal.
Yes.
And there is a history to the Cadillac. Now, what it is, I have to ask my mama, but she probably doesn't even know. But there is a history there between that brand and Black people. So we get it. Crisco, we get it. But, in those particular instances, it works. But in some instances, like you said, you just can't tie like, oh, that's the Black man's car. Unless the Black man owns it, not so much.
That's right. That's right. So I don't know. I think that, there are some interesting stories where brands are a little bit weirded out, is probably the most polite way I could say it, when a certain culture appropriates a product of theirs. Run with it, right? I've been joking for a long time, and I've done work for Pepsi, so they'll probably kill me and never wanted me to work again. But I would love to see a campaign from Pepsi called "Is Pepsi Okay?" Right? Okay. Because how many times have we walked into a restaurant, we say, can I get a Diet Coke or whatever, and they say, is Pepsi okay? That's a thing. We all have heard that, plenty of times if we drink soda pop.
Yep.
To me, that's the deal. Like, to me, why wouldn't they try to embrace it? But I think a lot of companies don't. A lot of companies try to shy away from what they're perceived as. And I don't think that's a smart plan.
Okay. And then tying onto that, there's a lot of information or a lot of blogs and a lot of discussion around doing the social good. So many brands right now are, once again, trying to either heartfelt help their communities. I was just reading an article yesterday how Pepsi decided not to invest in ads for the Super Bowl, and instead, this is back in 2011, and instead put in a campaign where they took this money, they did this whole social media campaign, and they literally spent their money developing certain projects in neighborhoods around the country. But once again, that the approach to it has to be authentic. And I think we're at a point now where we can literally see the bull, way away.
Yeah, well, there's a really weird difference between, look at this sandwich I'm giving this homeless guy, and companies doing stuff, Hanes does incredible stuff. Buy one, get one stuff. Hanes does it, with socks, for instance, for homeless guys. Turns out my buddy Mark Horvath, Invisible People TV, Mark, one of the things he found that homeless people need a lot more often than anything else is just a nice, warm, fresh pair of socks. And so he did a bunch of work with Hanes to get some buy one, get ones going. So you could go to like a Walmart or something and there'd be a bin, you buy, a bag of socks, you give a bag of socks or whatever. We'll handle this. Right. So it encouraged sales, but it also encouraged, we're going to do something nice for people in a real simple way. But Hanes sure doesn't have a parade for themselves. And I think that's the thing is that, we do a bunch of things where we give and contribute. I try not to make a big stink out of any of it, though. It's just not the right way to get it done. And people smell it. They smell if you're doing it just to get some distance out of it. Okay.
Now, I want to touch on the use of celebrity, too, because that seems to be a go-to marketing tactic more often than not. And it's kind of interesting to me back in the day, people. I remember when keeping it real meant you kept it street. And then MC Hammer came along. And he gave his brand. He let brands attach themselves to him. And the first thing culturally we said was he's a sellout.
Mm-hmm.
Straight up sellout. And now the irony of that is you wish a brand company would call you to appear in a commercial. So when you're talking about aligning your brand, aligning your everything to a particular influencer, quote unquote, whatever that really, because there's a broad explanation of what an influencer really is.
Mm-hmm.
What's your take on using that tactic, and especially if it's always your first thing to go to?
All right, so I'm friendly with Mr. Hammer. I met him at TechCrunch 2007 or 2008, TechCrunch 50, and I came up to him and I said, "Listen, I got to tell you, I'm not going to make one weird joke. I just think it's cool that you're here." And he told me that he invests in and does a lot of development on lots of different software and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. He has something to do with the QuickTime codec. I had no idea. Apple's QuickTime, Hammer's name's on the credits.
Wow.
So I thought that was pretty cool, pretty big, right? So, that said, he did in fact commercialize in a way that the other artists were not doing at that time. Mm-hmm. And so he drew some fire. I mean, he even gets made fun of by guys like Jay-Z. And I always feel bad about that particular detail because, I respect what he had going on, and I'm sorry that things didn't go well for him near the end. But he's still out there. He's still doing.
Yep.
However, I will turn to my friend Curtis James Jackson III. I've never met him, but 50 Cent. Yes. He said in an article, it was an interview on one of those serious channels that I never can remember the name. Not the modern one, not the not Backspin. He said, basically it's crabs in a bucket, right? You put a bunch of crabs in a bucket, you don't got to put anything on the top because as the crabs try to get out, the other crabs are going to pull their legs and get them back down. He said, we in our community, hip hop community, mm-hmm. they're like, man, 50, I want you to go. I want you to go the distance. What are you doing? Why are you so fancy now, 50? I want you to succeed, man. I can't. Well, how come you're not hanging out with me anymore? How come you're in LA shooting that movie? You can't be, street if you're shooting that movie. Yep. So you can't have it both ways. And I think we all want to be successful. So I always look at when people call someone a sellout, it's always a jealous, scenario. It's always a fear thing. And it's a huge fear, again, of saying, I'm not making it. It is definitely, a problem, where we're projecting our feelings on someone else, mm-hmm. and we're judging them for fears that we have inside of us. Okay. So I think you could commercialize and succeed. I think lots of organizations have shown that recently, and lots of musicians. I mean, holy crap, some of the songs that I see in commercials now, I remember when that was sacrosanct. We were never going to do that, but like Zeppelin in a car commercial, that kind of thing, mm-hmm. Crazy these days. However, in other ways, you would be so crazy not to do that.
Yeah.
You're an artist and you get told you want to be on the next James Bond album. Please.
Did we do
we
that?
both made that same sound
at the same time.
No question.
Not easy.
So,
but I think marketers, because everything seems to be about going viral. If I read one more blog post about how to go viral, and it's just like, stop telling people to go viral. You kind of hope that thing goes viral unless you're putting a lot of money behind it. Otherwise, it's not going to go quote unquote viral. You might get a couple of friends to see it and like it and share it and da-da-da-da. But when you start talking about, we got to go viral, it's like, well, unless you got a celebrity in it, maybe some naked people in it, or some craziness in it, some babies and some pets, hang it up. just be happy that the audience you're trying to reach got something of value from it. And that's the focus we're so getting away from.
I met a bunch of people who have had a YouTube hit like that. I met the guy who's the dad from David After Dentist. Mm-hmm. Is this real life? Some things change in his life because of that. He gets to go to conferences he wouldn't normally go to. He gets to be part of events. He gets sponsorship deals that he never would have got. Mm-hmm. But the big difference between going viral and not is only if you know how to do something with it. There's crap tons of people who went viral who made $0 and it didn't change their lives except for negatively. Right. But, say what you want about Kim Kardashian, but man, that was some really good sex she had because it's worth hundreds of millions of dollars, right? Hundreds of millions of dollars for that fine musician who makes no money,
gracious.
Nothing compared to Kimmy, but that's because she did the work. She and her family did all kinds of work to capitalize on that. And that's, whatever. I don't want to go viral that way. I'll tell you that much.
Well, then there's that way.
Exactly.
But
But I'll tell you that, that's, to me, that's the same thing when someone wants to go viral. Like, that's the crap that they're aiming at, and that's just not going to help anybody.
But at the end of the day, the Kardashians, say what you want about them, they are very wise, and they know who they are. They know who their audience is, and they are very wise on how to capitalize on it. And yeah, everything that they do, I don't pay attention to them. I really don't. However, I'm knowledgeable of them because I should be knowledgeable of them, because when it comes down to strategy, yeah, old girl was in a sex tape. But if you ask me, she was a star. Now, Ray J might say, hey, I made Kim Kardashian a star. And I'm like, dude, the reality of it is, if we were keeping it 100, if we keep it 100, she might have helped your career, because I think she was going to be where she is right now, regardless of you. If we kept it 100.
I'm with you there. I'm with you. I would say that, I like sort of looking over the people that we have vilified or put down for being somehow popular, because I'm always finding value in something about theirs. There's guys like Joel Osteen, the preacher guy. Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh. I mentioned him to some of my friends and they lose their minds. Like, Satan. And I think every time I see that guy do a presentation,
he always smiles. That's the only thing I don't like about
smiling.
I love his preaching, but he smiles throughout the whole thing. And I'm like, the expression never changes for me. And I'm like, dude, could you not just smile? Could you just not?
Exactly. Put something down. But you look at that audience of his, and there's like 20,000 plus people who all paid to sit in those chairs. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? He's filling a stadium every week.
Yep.
Every week. And often very different people. There's a huge waiting list to go down there.
Yeah.
So I don't know. You can make fun of him all you want, but I'm sitting there going, now what do I need to learn from this man?
But then once again, that goes back to, he was able to build on a foundation that came before him. His daddy built it, created the foundation, and he literally took it to the whole, I'm assuming, took it to the whole next level of things. Mm-hmm. And I think that's where a lot of us, we're not able to build a foundation. We're just kind of running after whatever's hot right now.
Yeah, well, hot right now, I mean, that's the thing, is we're in love with hot and we're in love with new. Mm-hmm. But what we're least into is, just hankering down. It's like doing a lot of putting down, planting some seeds and then pulling them up to see how they're doing. Right?
That's good. Oh, that's good. The visual on that is good. Could you Instagram that? I'm just playing.
Make a pretty picture?
Yeah.
That was a question, Alice, we got a question like that earlier about, should I be on all the platforms?
Yeah.
No. You should be on the platforms where you can tell your story the way you best want to tell it.
Mm-hmm.
That's the ones you should be on. And don't go chasing every waterfall.
Did you just do TLC?
I did. I loved Lisa Left Eye Lopez. I would have been in that crazy in a heartbeat, but she left us too soon. Yeah. She could have been my next ex-girlfriend.
Wow. Well, what about your friends then, Chris?
I'm not going to win this. You always have another one, right?
Yeah, you do. Don't go R&B, because you might beat me a little bit on the hip hop, because you know the lyrics and I know the chorus. But when it comes to R&B, dog, I got you. That's my thing. But I digressed. So, thank you for staying here this long, because I want to open this. I want to open this up. Now, here are my rules and regulations, people. Do not, if I let you sit in one of these seats and talk, I'm gonna tell you now, I will X you out with a quickness. I have not a problem, and I'm so very unapologetic about it. So just show some respect to me and to Chris, because you're in my house. My house. Whose house? It's Alice's house. Okay. So have a relevant question to ask. I'm gonna open it up. So y'all got questions? I'm gonna let you. I got whoever wants to come in, you can come in. Just know, because it's not like when I'm producing, where I have an associate producer who can kind of go through and say whether you're crazy or not. So I am my own producer and associate producer today. Okay. So, and don't be nervous. I'm nice. Chris is nice, and he's willing to stay and answer your questions and come on. Okay, but we do have another question. Mm-hmm. I saw that It says, this is from, I can't even pronounce his name. First of all, get a picture at Image Soft.
Oh,
that wrong?
Yeah, we talked about it. He asked about how do you bring your business forward. He's an Indian company. How do I, work with other, people in different areas, because they seem like they don't want to work with Indian companies. And I said there's kind of a couple 100,000 examples of American and Indian companies working together. I helped integrate my wireless company we bought a company in Hyderabad back in my old job. And then an Indian company bought us. So, I mean, there's lots of examples of how to do that. My friends in an agency world, Zmoga, did this other kind of thing though. So they set up a business on, I don't know, Fifth Avenue or something in New York. 5 or 6 guys work in the New York office, and then 150 guys work in Bogota, Colombia. And so that's another way you could do it too, is where there's sort of a face office, in a place where you want to do your business, and then you can have the rest of people, set to go.
I want to go back because people talk about influencer. People consider you an influencer. So how do you define what an influencer is?
It's a good question. I don't think my answer is especially marketing approved or anything like that. But I would say that, who influences me is, my buddy Justin Levy is forever finding me things, in the hip hop space. He's the one who got me most excited about Jay-Z. I was not especially turned on by Jay-Z. So I would say that, he's the one who said, here's why you should like him. And I was like, oh, I totally get it. And he opened it up. While we were talking, he just shared a most recent clip of DJ Jazzy Jeff, turning tables and stuff and really scratching and mixing. And I was like, I can't talk about this right now because I'm on a Blab, but I'm going to push play the minute I'm done. And so Justin's my hip hop influencer, right? Other people are my music influencer, other music influencer. So I think that what defines an influencer is someone who's got an opinion and who can do something, who can do
what you can,
work,
push some people down or just push them slightly out of the way. But that's the party you want to be at. Okay. All right. So when it comes down to approaching, because a lot of us, especially when you're trying to find your reach or you're trying to accumulate an audience, approaching the influencer, what are the pitfalls? I mean, I've seen this argument a lot. As an influencer, why should I align myself with you for however many minutes it lasts? Because it doesn't do anything for me. But the individual is saying, well, look, what do you have to say to an influencer to make it look like this is worthy? Even though I may not be as famous, or I may not be as, as popular as you. But as somebody, if you're reaching out to an influencer, there's some things you really got to consider. It's like you do have to make it worth their while.
The way it's always worked for me, I can only speak for me on this one, but I can tell you that the people who have really resonated with me, there's a million people who come up to me. I get lots and lots and lots of emails from people and come up to me at events or all that sort of thing. And a lot of them basically do this weird thing where they're like, you've got a huge audience. I think I'm really awesome. I want to share my thing with your huge audience. And I've already stopped listening a while ago because, what they're really saying is I want to use the network that you spent all the years building to make more money for me. That's what they're saying. And that's not how it ever works for me. 0% of the time do I go, that's a great idea. Meanwhile, this one guy messages me one day and he says, hey, I know that you're not a big fan of LinkedIn. I've read a bunch of your blog posts about how you're not that into it, but man, I think you got it all wrong. And I've worked with a bunch of guys that I worked with John Morgan. I've worked with all these other names that, that are sort of friends of mine. And I really changed their mind about it. And so I put together this whole bunch of things that I think would be better for your LinkedIn profile. And I want you just to watch this little video and look at this little checklist and see what you think and whatever. So I'm like, I don't really want to watch a little video. Okay. So I push play and it's amazing. And he's right. And all the changes he recommends, I get business the very next day. Like, it's embarrassing. Like, it was like he must've called someone and said, hey, tomorrow call Chris and offer him money. It worked just like that. And this guy's name is John Nemo. His company, he does a thing called LinkedIn Riches. And there was before and after. And by the way, I don't like that name. I don't like the name LinkedIn Riches. It sounds like the kind of guy I don't want to talk to. I love John Nemo. He's one of the two people who really kind of changed course for me in my business. in some ways, as far as at least using LinkedIn and how that worked for me. I got 30 or almost $40,000 out of LinkedIn right after John Nemo gave me that advice, you know?
Cool.
So how did he do it? He said, I've got some value for you. Here's the value. He never once said, can you help me, connect with your crowd? I was like, oh my gosh, I've got to tell more people. What do we do? Mm-hmm. And he and I partnered on this course thing that he does with a free webinar. You get so much value out of the free webinar that most people buy the course. And everyone I've sent there, everyone except for one person, and that person may or may not be challenged, let's use that kind word, has come back going, oh my gosh, thank you for telling me. Mm-hmm. And so that was a great influencer story to me, if I'm the influencer in the story. The other way it is with me, though, is that, I never want to be, I don't ever want to be someone's human retweet, right? I want to be, I want there to be real obvious synergy. Mm-hmm. I don't talk about social media. So there's no, everyone who wants to share with their awesome social media software, I could care less. Not interesting. I point him to Brian Fanzo because he's better. Mm-hmm. So to me, that's the goal. The goal is how do I get good people, to find great people like Stan Bush.
Hi, Stan.
How are you doing?
I'm fine, sir. How are you?
I'm doing great.
Stan, what happened, Stan Bush?
You know what, man? I don't know. I must have just brushed it off one night or something. I woke up one day and I didn't want it anymore. It's like, I think I'll shave the mustache.
You got a good looking face. I had no idea. I thought that mustache was, a defense.
Well, no, actually, I put a little bit more money into the camera.
Oh, I gotta give me one.
It's not a Chromebook kind of a thing anymore. Well, Chris and I have a little history. I did some work with him before. And so the question, I was listening while doing some other work in the other room. And the question that I really have for Chris is this, how did you, because I know that he knows a certain skill set, kind of a skill set that I have. I think he knows some of the things that I'm capable of. The question is, how did you narrow down to that one thing that you do? Because we actually had a post one time about that one thing. And so how did you figure that out, Chris? I'm real interested to know that. Come on, Curly.
It's a good bunch of questions here.
You just called him Curly.
Yeah, he knows.
Yeah. I'll tell you, I think that the way that I got there, I'm trying to really that's a valuable question. One of the ways was I quit a bunch of things. I used to try to chase a lot of things. And what I learned is, if you got a bow and an arrow, you can only shoot at one target at a time. And you miss all the targets if you try to shoot at more than one. And so that's one core thing that I've had to come to accept, that multi-anything usually doesn't work so well. And I multiple tabs open, doing lots of projects, trying to be your own entrepreneurial, chase 400 things. My hero is Branson. He runs 400 companies. The thing is, Branson works on one thing at a time. It just happens that there's 401 things. So I was following what I thought was the model, and I was wrong. Launch a bunch of things didn't really work well for me. The other thing was I kept distilling down this feeling, sort of like, this isn't the problem. I just kept having that feeling in my head, like, oh, this can't be the problem. They're saying this is the problem, but it's not the problem. And as I got further down, I just realized just how lost people were, just how I don't even know what to do. I feel like I'm working more hours than I've ever worked, and I'm not making any money, and I just don't know what to do. And man, that resonated with so many people that I just started trying to solve for that one challenge. And instead of, you could do this or you could do that, that's like going to a restaurant that has 20 different salad dressings after you've had a long day on the road. I just say, okay, I got Italian. You want some Italian? How's that? Right? There's your dressing. And people are kind of going, okay, that sounds fine. I like Italian. They might prefer ranch, but they're not getting it today. That's what I kind of figure out, Stan.
Yeah, that's like chocolate macadamia nuts cookies. If that's the only thing you got, that everybody loves them.
You're right about that.
That's that. You don't have to have that big thing. Well, I was just wondering about that. I've kind of narrowed down my scope a lot since the last time you and I talked. And I've been following you and watching you, but I try to keep as focused. The problem with listening to you, Chris, is that is that, I'm in there and I said, okay, I've got to get this thing done. Right. And I work in 25-minute sessions and get really focused on things. And I had that kind of listen to it. The problem is that you can't focus on that. You have to stop and go, okay, let me analyze and figure out what he's talking about, which really the analyzation part is really kind of taking it too deep, because you don't have to analyze what you say. It's just, here is the way that it is. Right. So anyway, it was good seeing you again. Tell your mom and dad I said hello, and I'll see you again.
Always great to see you, Stan.
Happy holidays, Stan.
Thanks for letting me in, Alice. Y'all take care.
I have another question for you. When we're talking about tools, and back at, the old school hip hop, they had the radio. Everybody, Radio Raheem, all of that. I can't live without my radio. I got it. Okay. And when Periscope came onto the scene, and you were probably one of the few people that were like, comma and. Periscope is here, not necessarily something I'm going to rush out to do. And then what amazed me was how many people just got quote unquote bent because Chris Brogan said, okay, well, it's Periscope. Okay, it's just one more tool, but it's not necessarily the tool for me. And then there was a rush of marketers who shall remain nameless, just kind of went in because you didn't like Periscope, and you said you're just not all of that about Periscope. And so somebody was asking about the platforms and the tools. I think we as marketers, especially when we're creating these blog posts and the how-tos and this and that and the other, be very mindful of the fact that, once again, we don't have to chase around every darn tool that exists. Yeah, be knowledgeable, but there's so many people now rushing to live streaming, understandably why, but at the end of the day, it may not be the tool for you and your business, especially if you don't like to talk, and especially if you do not like being on camera, and if you're afraid of some element of transparency. Could you speak to that a minute?
Oh, absolutely. First off, yeah, it was pretty fun telling people I didn't like Periscope, because then suddenly I had the attention of all those social media people again, which I didn't mean to get, because I don't care. But it was funny because I was sort of like, holy crap, like these people really care. And I'm like, this is not going to be a very interesting fight, because you're going to be like, well, I love Periscope. And I'm going to be like, okay. There's no, here's where you're wrong. I just don't care, which is, it's kind of a Buddhist thing in some ways too, just take the sword, they're trying to stab you, just pull the sword with them. They don't know what to do. So, do what you like, is that not the best way to get it done? I don't like doing live video, not because I'm facile at it. I could do it. I have a way with words. Nothing throws me. But I had to find clothes to put on. I was sitting here, I was naked doing my work, Well, not really. I had like a Batman t-shirt and pajama pants.
That's cool. That's A-okay, as long as, because we already understand the shot is from the shoulder up, medium wide, a medium close up, as we call it.
Don't let me stand up. No, I'm wearing blue jeans right now.
Not that kind of show. I had that on Blab the other night. Just
oh my gosh. So I will say this, the other thing is, where are you going to sustain? Where are you going to contribute to a community? And if you're just trying to be online because you're trying to get more attention, do wherever you want. I don't care. It doesn't blow me up. But if you don't put the time into Blab, you're not going to be the Blab person. If you're not, putting the time into Periscope, you're not going to be the Periscope. To me, Brian Fanzo owns Blab as far as social goes in one way, but Joel Comm owns it in this whole other way. Twitch, none of us are, especially gamers in here, I don't think. Twitch. But man, Twitch, there's people up there with like millions of followers watching over their shoulder while they play video games. And they're making $150,000 a year now plus to make video games by Twitch streaming. They're Twitch streaming. They're talking to their person. So like, if Stan happens to be a huge video game head and he's like watching Call of Duty, he might be sitting there giving somebody $20 because he had such a great experience or whatever. And, hey, thanks, Stan, for your $20. That's adding up. These guys are making six figures playing video games. I would rather be over there than figuring out Periscope. But I'll tell you, it's where where you can best tell your story.
Mm-hmm.
And it's what you most want to contribute to the environment, this community that we get the opportunity to serve. My man Joseline, he does something so fun. Amongst other things that he works on, he helps with openings for movies in Boston. Meaning, if there's some awesome movie you want to go see, he's got the tickets ahead of anybody else. You go to special private screening. It is the coolest thing in the world. Like you still pay for your popcorn and all that kind of stuff, but you're there. You see the Star Wars 4 days before anybody else or whatever.
Wow.
I don't think he got the Star Wars one, but for all I know, maybe he did. But that's one thing Joseline does. That's not, hey, you tweet, so do I, right? So like to me, that's what you're looking for now. You're looking for what makes you worth it, what makes it interesting, what makes it someone wants to be part of this story. Like Art Jones himself.
There you go, Chris Brogan. Hi, Alice. Hi, Chris.
Hi.
Hey, I just wanted to say that this is great. You've got Chris Brogan on Blab, Chris and Alice. Good to see you guys. This question you asked, Alice, is one that I tried to put my thoughts in the stream, and I kind of screwed my syntax up. So I better jump in and explain what I meant.
Okay.
What I thought that I had learned from you, Chris, was that you use the tool that your ideal prospect's using. If they're not using it, why bother? Was I right on that?
Hey, listen, I love that. I love that validation. To me, I don't think the CEO of PepsiCo is hanging out on Snapchat all day. So you can work your Snapchat strategy, but if you need, her, Indra, is it? If you need her to be paying attention to you, that's probably not where you're going to get it done. Now, that isn't to say her lieutenants aren't, and a lot of times who brings me to a company is the person who likes what I have to say and then brings me to somewhere. But I would say that the whole scenario, what's your scenario? The opportunity is that if you can say stuff in an interesting or unique way, like my platform, my breakthrough platform first was blogging, and then that was already pretty crowded field, and Twitter was one of my first breakthrough platforms. But I'll tell you what I didn't do with it after the first handful of months. I didn't spend all my time on it going, Twitter's cool. Twitter's cool. I spent time saying to businesses, what would be really cool? And then I got business from that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. The other thing, and I'll say this because I think the other guy that taught me a great lesson was a friend of yours, Jeff Pulver.
Oh, yes.
And Jeff is an old school guy that was doing ham radio in the last century. And for those that don't know what ham radio is, it's like taking a little tiny radio, this is a phone, but a little radio, putting an earbud in 1970, I guess, when Jeff was doing it, and listening to what's going on in the world. And you could listen to things going on all over the planet. And Jeff said that he thought that Twitter was like ham radio. And what that meant for me was that Twitter was better for listening than it was for broadcasting as an early adopter. And I embraced that as all the tools, whether it's, Blab is great for listening. I can come here and promote and shout at people, or I can listen to what thought leaders like Chris Brogan are saying, or the thoughtful things that Alice is saying, and learn something that I don't already know. And so, that it goes back to the question of what's the right tool? Well, whatever tool you use, you should be using it to find out if your ideal prospect is there. Then you use it to listen to what they're saying for a while so you know what they're responding to, and then go make your business happen because you're singing their song, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
No question. It's a little strange / sad how Twitter has changed a little bit. It is definitely a strange world out there. Like when I was just looking, because I was curious, like what's it look like over there right now? Almost 329,000 people follow me. I get my least interaction there. That's where the least people connect with me.
Wow.
There. What's crazier, what gets it even nuttier are, the kinds of people who do follow me are people that I should have no connection with. Like, and when I say that, like some of these people, I'm talking about, sort of verified types of fancy pants people, Evander Holyfield follows me. Vanilla Ice follows me.
Ice, baby.
There's no reason in the universe that these people should even vaguely know who I am, let alone follow me. And it's just, it kind of blows my mind that that's, you know, on the, like, I could say that's really cool, but this is what Alice and I said really early on. I think you were here. Oh, Shaq follows me, Shaquille O'Neal. Do you think that we talk? That would be a no. So I guess I could go to my room and touch myself and be excited about this. You know, Shaquille O'Neal follows me, but it's not going to make anything happen. It's Chris, masturbation. It's not sex.
But you know what it is, Chris? I think it's because you also, the other lesson I learned from you many years ago is the notion that if you think you have some secret sauce and you want to hold it close to your vest and not share it, people will never know what you're good at and never know. So the notion of freemium, just open wide and give it up. And I think if Vanilla Ice and Evander Holyfield and Shaq are following you, they're following you to know what they don't know. They're using Twitter to listen to what you share, because you will promote your next webinar. You will promote your great blog post. You will talk about, you know, all the great things that you bring to us in the market space, and you make them smarter, because I know Shaq, I would guess, and Vanilla Ice kind of has a marketing bone in his body, and I think they're simply trying to improve their position by taking all that you give for free. And you know, you ought to check the record and see if Shaq is subscribed to one of those webinars and actually bought something. He may have.
He may have.
That would be interesting to me.
He's a Google investor, so he may have. Shaq is an investor.
Yeah, I can't believe that Shaq knows what he knows when I hear him talk about social, because Shaq knows social. Shaq has been listening to Chris Brogan and other people like Chris to make themselves smarter. So when he goes to South by Southwest, he can join the conversation in an articulate way, which is smart. And I don't doubt he's not a very smart man. And I think Chris helps Shaq be smarter, has helped me be smarter. So, Chris, thank you very much, because it's all up here now, man. Thank you.
Well, Art, that's super ultra kind. And, you know, to tell me that I'm helping others stand up and stand out, that means a lot to me. So thank you for that. And please continue to help people with their story, because you're right. Marketing is dead.
Peace, everybody.
It's funny that he would mention Vanilla Ice, because in all honesty, there was a lot of hateration when Vanilla Ice first appeared on the scene to begin with. Mm-hmm. I know that a particular African American fraternity, Alpha Phi Alpha, did not particularly appreciate the fact that the phrase was ice baby, which is a term most of us who are members of any black sorority, fraternity, whatever, we understand. When we hear ice baby, that's A-Phi-A. And the black and gold, and also the stepping in the video. It was almost as if Vanilla went to some black institution, and I mean of higher learning, and saw a step show and said, I think I'll just borrow that. And next thing you know, it's like the new thing for him. And it's just like, well, hold up, player. Can you make a donation to A-Phi-A if you're gonna bite? Can you do that?
I like it. I like it. That's it. You know, he learned that from Elvis, though. You know, so we have a yeah. Look, Art and I were on the same wavelength right there. Art said it too. You know, Elvis. Yeah. You know, that's Eminem's big line, right? You know, if Shady's eyes were brown, baby, Shady's records would stay on the shelf, right? Mm-hmm. So I would say that, you know. There's a long-standing tradition of white people stealing black music. We steal it all if we can. I mean, my God, have you not seen people stealing Punjabi music and stuff like that? I love Punjabi music. I love Bhangra, and I love you know, watching it get ripped off by musicians, including what's his name, Jason Derulo, you know, modern guy, and you know. We appropriate just like rap appropriates and just like whatever. So I would say that Vanilla probably didn't necessarily do the very best job of getting onto the scene. He got pushed into quite an interesting box. I actually saw him live. I saw him live when he went out with that band and played sort of like Korn style music. And it was one of my best shows I ever saw. Okay. You know, he lived up to everyone kind of making fun of the old days, but he brought a rocking show and like really connected with the community. So that said, I would say that there's a lot of that going on in marketing. I would say that there's a lot of biting and a lot of appropriation and a lot of people steal my stuff all the time. I gave up caring about that. Like, you know, everything I do, I tell everybody, everything I do now is steal enabled. Come get some, you know, but you know why though? Because if you're a copycat, you can only copy for so long. You know, I've got melodies for days. You know, you can take my old stuff, you know, you're so 2008. You know, 2008. I'm on 3008. I just screwed that up. Sorry, Black Eyed Peas fans.
It's all right. It's all good. It's all good. Okay. Well, it is 1:00, and the fact that you stayed on this long, thank you. But
I had a lot of fun.
Thank you. So, for anyone who wants to holler at Chris, well, he's not really on Twitter. That's where I've talked to him, but.
You can talk to me anywhere there.
Yeah, wherever. Yeah, but you know, you can hit him up on Twitter if you want. Shout out to your website. Which one do you want to send people to?
Oh, just chrisbrogan.com. That's easy enough. You'll find me there.
Yeah, he's quite Googleable. Trust me on that.
Google Chris. I'm the one who doesn't beat his ex-girlfriend.
See?
Want to go there, Alice?
You're just not right. Because I was going to go down a whole nother road with that. But okay, it is 1:00, people. It is a couple of days before Christmas. I wish everybody in here and everybody who's represented in here a blessed and happy holiday. We're going to shut this down now. And peace and blessings. Be out, everybody. I'm done. Chris, again, thank you so very much. This is being recorded. So, of course, if you missed the beginning, you can catch the replay. I thank you in advance for all the tweets and the shares and all of that stuff. Thank everybody for that. And I might do this again, hopefully, soon. I just don't know when as of yet. But happy holidays to everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye now.